I'm Brad King, and this is Stories in Steel. On this episode of Stories in Steel, we sit down with the always on the gas, Roger Hickey. Not being one to take it easy at life, Roger has always pushed himself to the absolute limit, whether it's racing boats, motorcycles, skateboards, off-road, and even land speed cars, with no plans to stop anytime soon. This visit was a lot of fun. I made a little trek down to Huntington Beach and decided to have a little sit down with you, Roger. And you've kind of always amazed me. And
my height?
That very impressive.
Yeah. 6'4" good.
Serious good looking.
Yeah.
You got a full head of hair, which I have to hide what hair I don't have underneath the hat. But you've had quite a history, and it's not all, a lot of stuff I've done has been automotive things, and you've done automotive, but you've done such a large gamut of just stuff. I don't even know, stuff's just a lot of racing, a lot of different venues, and I want to talk about your life a little bit.
You know what it is? I don't think I've ever. Like before I was 10 years old, Al Qaeda would have hired me as such a bomb expert. I only became a bomb expert because I was so intrigued with everything. Right. And until you get the biggest bang, you haven't solved that intrigue or that curiosity. So if you think about it, everything is that way for me, like everything. And so being born into racing, that just expanded. That gave me an avenue to build stuff and blow shit up.
So you were born into racing.
Yeah, my dad raced Top Fuel.
Okay.
So Kent Inderley, my dad, Jim Burzett, I was around them since I was born. And so my dad and Inderley and this other guy named Ben were on the cover of Honk magazine when he was 16, which is the old car craft or car driver or something. But they were on the cover of it going to Bonneville, and they invented their own version of fuel injectors, and they took a big plunger and they took farm misters and put it in the motor, and they just pushed it in as they were going down the course, and everybody's like, well, what the heck's that? And he goes, we're just injecting fuel. And kind of was the first fuel injector, really. I mean, Hilborn was working on their own deal, but Inderley had his own deal, and the car was pink because Inderley's mom had some pink house paint in the garage. And so they used house paint, and it's a belly tank front, and I think it was either a 29 or 30 non-chopped center cab section, and it just had a fuel tank on the back. It was higher than hell, looked like a Model T, and they just went out there and hauled ass. And it was on the cover and had like 5 pages inside of what these kids are doing, And we threw my dad's ashes out of the beast at Bonneville, but it was just weird, to see my dad at 16 in a magazine in that out there,
So when did you start actually doing your kid? Obviously, you're a little guy, you're out messing around, but when did it actually become serious for you?
Probably when I was 3. My stroller, when I was a kid, was built by my grandfather. He used to build racing go-karts and just different frames and stuff. And it was a racing go-kart with a big handle on it. And my dad used to lift it up and put it in the trunk of the Plymouth. And they couldn't push it because I would always turn as a little kid. And so they just lifted it up with the handle. And then when I was about 2.5, my dad cut the handle off, put a brake on it, taught me about the brake. And I used to race down our hill with the brakes. And then at 3, they threw a motor on it. My dad always had racer friends over. And he threw a motor on it. And we went out and started driving around in parking lots. Cones and stuff like that until I figured it out. And he entered me in some go-kart races and signed the release that I was 5 years old. I wasn't even 4 yet. And I started racing, and I won the 5-year-old championship at 4. And then, I mean, literally I was always around. My dad had his own little version of a machine shop. He was a machinist. And so back and forth in my life at 8 years old, my dad and I taped off a trailer in the driveway with duct tape. My dad bought a bunch of C-channel and all that stuff, and that's how I learned how to weld. I learned how to arc weld by welding his trailer in the driveway. And the welds that were bad, he cut them off and made me re-weld it.
Wow.
Yeah, upside down, And then he got all his friends over and they flipped the trailer over, and that was the dragster trailer. They just put plywood on the top and threw the dragster on it. And so that just shows you, like, how could I not soak all this up?
Right.
You know what I mean? When you're around, like, literally the baddest dudes on the planet.
And then you'd also talked about making a pass in Dad's boat. Again, You're still this little guy. You're still
tiny. When I was a junior in high school, I was only probably 5'2" and maybe 95 pounds. I didn't grow till after high school. I always went with my dad when he raced people on the river. That boat was a Hondo 511T deck, which is the runabout flat bottom. It's the same hull they race now, except they have capsules in them. And he had I think he had a 500-inch Chevy, single carburetor. My dad didn't like chrome, and he didn't like dual quads because he liked to beat guys with dual quads or injectors with a single carburetor. He liked coming out as the underdog and just spanking them. You know what I mean? Which I think I like it too. I like playing stupid and then going, how'd I win? I don't know how I won. How'd I get here? And so anyway, it was the first time my dad ever said, why don't you and your brother take the boat? I'm like, really? Okay. And he's like, just be careful. And we took it off. We untied it. You tie them out like this. There's a special way flat bottoms are tied so they don't sink. We untied it and we went upriver. And I remember cruising. I was a full grown man at that point. You know what I mean? I'm a badass. Cool. I'm a little 12 or 13-year-old kid. My brother's like 4 or 5. And so we're cruising up there. So he would be 7, and we're cruising up there, and then all of a sudden, up by Sundance up there, I think at Fox's, here comes this blown, must have been on gas, obviously, but blown gas flat bottom with a wing and 2 guys with vests on. No helmets, but just the vests. And I remember just cruising along, and I'm looking at him, I'm like, damn, look at that thing. Sure as hell, he comes out, stops, I shut the boat off, he shuts the boat off, and he's like, yeah, it's a pretty nice place, isn't that boat racing here, blah, blah, blah. Did you want to race? And I remember when he first asked me, I wanted to, but I was thinking yeah, right, I'll be in so much trouble. And literally my brother's like, you better race, man, or Dad's going to be mad. And it was like God said, I think you should race. because my dad will be mad. So my dad always told me, you go first. Let them go first every time so they can't say you jumped to start. That way when you beat them, you beat them. And every time my dad raced people, he would do that. So they fired up. And when you race flat bottoms, you're going like 15 or 20 miles an hour, and then you go. And so they fired up, I fired up, and we're going like this, and he nails it. And I remember the thing just like evil, just getting out of the water and just being evil. And my dad didn't have a pedal cavitation plate on that boat. He had a handle. They went to the pedals a little bit later. And so I never knew like what position it was in for racing. So I figured just put it all the way up. So I just pulled the lock up, pushed it all the way forward before I even hit the throttle and locked it in. And I could barely even, my dad was a big guy. My dad weighed probably 260. So my reach to the steering wheel and to the gas pedal was a long way. So I had to hold myself up there. I remember hitting that throttle. That thing jumped out of the water. I don't remember a lot except for us blowing past that dude. I don't remember how I settled the boat back down. I know that my adrenaline was so crazy that I was crying. And when we stopped, my hands, it was the first time I ever experienced my hands shaking so much I couldn't even think straight. I think my teeth were shaking. And he just came up and he's like, that was crazy or something like that. And then he went that way. I just had to sit and catch my breath for a little bit because it was crazy. Like it was crazy. It was as crazy as going 100 on a skateboard. It was that crazy. And so I remember us idling back and me telling my brother, you can't tell Dad. Like whatever you do, don't act different, don't do nothing, don't tell Dad. Just act normal. Telling a 6 or 7-year-old kid this, right? So we get back. I'm like trying to be as cool as I can.
Trying to be cool.
Oh yeah, crazy. And I kick the boat around, turn the boat around, tie it up, tie the back up. I think I remember like just walking, looking around, total horrible acting job. And my dad's sitting on the lawn and I go up and I sit right next to him. And my dad always either had his Pepsi or his iced tea and he's just sitting there. And remember, my dad's a giant dude, not afraid to whack the crap out of me. And he's sitting there and I remember sitting there, my brother heads for the back door, back of the yard. And I'm like, It's 126 degrees. Why do you need to go run into the gravel in the backyard?
Yes.
Not acting normal whatsoever. Oh my gosh, shit, I hope you didn't notice that. So we're sitting there, and so 30 seconds or a minute I think it felt like an hour. Just torture. I was so anxiety ridden, it was crazy. And also my dad just gets up and I'm thinking he's going to whack me or something. I don't know what's going on. Walks down, goes up to the boat, kind of looks around, goes to the side of the boat, looks around, comes back up, sits down next to me. Probably felt like an hour goes by, but maybe it was 10 seconds, right? And he knew what he was doing. And so all of a sudden, he doesn't even look at me. He's just looking straight forward. He just goes, "Did you win?" I'm like, I know I didn't answer right away. And he goes, "The truth will help you a lot right now." And I go, "Yeah, I won." And he goes, "All right." I go, "How did you know I raced?" He goes, "Come on, I'll show you." He walked me down there and he points inside the exhaust. We had the dry stacks. He points inside the exhaust. They're black headers and they're pure white inside, like you spray painted them white. He goes, "These headers have never been white." He goes, so then I thought, Jesus, how many RPMs do you reach? He goes, "And see this little red line on this gauge right here?" He goes, "That tells me how far the motor went. That's called a red line. It's never been 8,400 ever. It's never been $8,000 ever." He goes, "So I don't know who you raced." He goes, "But you were hauling ass." And he goes, "Come on, get in the boat. I want to see who you raced." So he goes, "You drive." So I got in the boat and we cruised up there. And here comes those guys again. They came out and they told my dad, "You got one crazy."
I'm sure Dad was impressed. Like, that's who you raced.
Really was. He was. And really, I raced the boat from then on. I almost drove every race from then on. It was always me. And with him or without him. You just go race that guy. I think he liked it that this little kid would go beat these guys, right? I got a little tank top or no shirt and 115 miles an hour. And but yeah, those guys came out and they just said, "That your son?" "Yeah, you one crazy son of a bitch." And they're like, he blew us. They were actually cool. They said that I just blew them in the weeds. But there's no weight in the boat either.
All right.
Yeah, my brother and I both weighed the same as a cardboard box,
So where did that... You're kind of well known for your skateboarding. That's what kind of got you your name. So when did that come into play? Obviously, it wasn't at the river. I mean, if you're in the river doing...
No, but I did do some hills at the river because my dad worked at the dam. And when you're going to Parker Dam, there's a hill. So my dad would always have me, "Can you go ride the hill? My friends want to see ride the hill." But that was after I was already established in downhill. But oh my God, you're riding a hill at 120 degrees on 2,000 degree asphalt. And they do it again. Do it again. I'm like, God, I'm sweating to death.
Dying.
But anyway, yeah, so I used to race water skis behind the boat.
Okay.
Since I was like 8 years old. And we had a family, Gil Younger and his son Steve Younger and his daughter Sally Younger, that were very famous speed skiers. They held the men's and women's speed ski records and all that stuff.
Wow.
So they were always at our river house. So because I like speed skiing so much, I had a skateboard when I was 7 years old given to me. And then this guy in high school said, "Oh, they're going to start racing skateboards at this place in Long Beach. Since you race water skis, you should race skateboards," because he knew I skateboarded. I go, "What's that all about?" And he goes, "Well, I have a downhill board." So he asked me to go with him, and it was over off of Kellogg Hill off the side. And it's a steep hill. And I don't think I was wearing anything as far as safety wise. But anyway, I made it about, I would say 100 yards, and the thing started wobbling. And then I tried to run at maybe 30, and that didn't work. And yeah. And so I hit the asphalt and I broke my arm. And then I just swore it wasn't my fault. It was the board's fault. So I decided I was going to build a board to go back to that hill and see if I could go down it. And I did, and I made it down the hill. I was like, this ain't bad. Maybe I'll try this. And that's kind of where it started. When I first raced Signal Hill, I didn't think I was good enough at the stand-up style, so I did the street luge style, the lay-down style. And because that hill was like an elevator drop. I raced that, and then we used to race Glendora Mountain Road, and which is crazy, and any hill we could find. We literally, at that point, were just driving around with skateboards, me and my little posse, and I just kept getting... I don't have any moderation, so if I can't get to, like... I either am, like, really messed up, or I'm the world champion. Do you know what I mean? Because everything has to be crazy. I can't just go out and race.
So Were you in high school when you started racing skateboards, or when did that, or were you out of school?
18 years old. When I really got into it. When I did the broken arm thing, I think I was probably 14.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I just tinkered around until I got there. My dad helped me build my Signal Hill board. Like he put some lead and made like a torsion bar in it and stuff like that. And we drilled trucks out. He machined them out, made some spacers so we could get the trucks a little wider. I mean, he actually got into it for a little bit. And then when I started getting mangled and hurt and dying and defibrillators and all that stuff, he wasn't into it too much
anymore.
He never showed up anymore after that.
So 18, you started getting serious.
Yeah.
When did you win your first championship?
My first championship in street luge was in 78, and my first championship in downhill skateboarding was 80 or 81. It's up there on Thrasher magazine, but I think it was 81.
So you're a busy guy then, bouncing around between
racing motorcycles, skateboards, boats, anything I could get a hold of. Photographer, artist. I mean, I'm still that crazy. What are you talking about? I'm still doing 400 things.
But that's cool. That's
yeah. If I get 5 hours of sleep, then it was like I was at a resort. You know.
So how long? Back to your racing deal. How long did you race? I mean, are you still playing skateboards, or did that?
The last skateboard race I did was in 2016 when I went 100. But I actually retired from full seasons of racing in 97 because it got really political and my best friend died. And so it just wasn't cool anymore. Like it kind of took the mojo out of it, you know, and I'm like, well, I didn't know we could die, even though I did die twice, but I always came back so you didn't really die. And so I quit in 97. And so I came out of retirement knowing that I could race the X Games. I qualified for the X Games, and then they decided that I can't race them after I did that. So then they had another thing called the Gravity Games. So then I qualified for that, and then I raced that, and then somebody kind of sabotaged my run and put a board in the middle of my run, and I hit the board and broke my knee, and I was out. And so that was it. I was done. I'm like, I'm not doing this no more. I'm racing with fools. And so I quit. And then 17 years later, somebody told me about this hill in Canada. Well, a year before the hill in Canada, or a couple years. You know, the internet's filled with such wonderful, positive people.
Sure.
That usually show their admiration for you in wonderful ways. And so I was reading all this crap about when Hickey raced, he only went 50 and there was only 2 people. And in stand-up, I won 315 races in stand-up. I won 287 races in street luge. And somehow, there was only 2 of us going 50 miles an hour.
How many championships did you win?
I won 20 in stand-up and 18 in luge. And in gravity cars, I won 10.
Oh,
yeah. So 48 total.
It's only you and another guy, though. So, I mean, it was...
Right. It wasn't hard to beat one other guy. Right. Yeah.
So you went...
and he finished second that many times.
He's got more seconds than anybody.
Yeah. He has so many runner-up championships. Yeah. When they're talking all this crap, I'm thinking, I'm in great shape now. Maybe I should just try it again. And my original luge board, my good one, was built in 1989. So I went and tried one of my old set of leathers that are hanging out there. And they fit. I was like, Of course, not telling my wife any of this stuff, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So I find out about this race. Somebody called me and told me, I think. So I called the people in Canada and I said, hey, this world championship thing coming up for gravity, and they were going to have gravity cars, stand up, and luge. I'm thinking I could race all 3. I still have my Budweiser gravity car. I know I can still do stand up, and I know I can do luge. So I thought I'd race all 3. So I call him up and I say, hey, what does it take for me to race? And the guy's like, oh, well, you know, you got to either be in the top 30 in points or an ex-world champion. I said, well, I got that covered. I said, so I want to race. What's your name? I tell him my name. No clue. Doesn't have a clue. So I guess I should have won 21 of them, not 20.
Right.
Yeah, 21, my name would have been in the books. So I said, get back to me when you find it out. Go ask around. It kind of hurt my feelings that it took 2 weeks to call me back to find out that I actually was a world champion, right? So he calls me back. Oh, yeah. So they told me. So then I said, all right, it's on. So I tell my friend Perry, and he's like, well, I want to do it. I'm like, all right, can't tell my wife. You know what I mean? You can't tell Esther, blah, blah, blah. So I said, get your old board and bring it over. I'm going to rebuild it for you. So we start rebuilding it. Now, we haven't ridden in 17 years. So I started rebuilding my board, which is called the Genesis. Nobody's ever touched the speed of that board. And I have some secret stuff in there, like carbon fiber suspension. Yeah. Yeah. Like jet engines. And
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, I start rebuilding it, and maybe I'm 2 months into it. I've already paid the entry fee, everything, right? I'm 2 months into it, and Esther comes, "What are you doing?" I said, "This thing was getting ruined in the rain. I just wanted to rebuild it. Put it on the wall." "Oh, okay." So then she didn't think nothing of it. And then pretty soon I'm rebuilding Perry's too, right? And so she's slowly figuring this out, right? Now I'm ordering leathers and, new leathers. Right. So we had to have the talk, and
the talk.
Yeah. And so at that time we had found out that she had gotten breast cancer, right? So then I was like, I'm not racing, because her surgery, I knew when her surgery was, and it was just right after what the race was. And I'm like, I'm not racing. I want to make sure I go to the doctor with you every single time. So it was just done. I was like, This isn't important, and I don't want to stress her out. So all of a sudden, when she found out when she's got to go in for her surgery and stuff like that, she just said, "Look, why don't you go do that thing? I don't want you to do stand up, because I don't want you to die. Just race street luge. The gravity car was going to be a lot of work to ship it there and stuff." I said, "Okay." And she goes, "And when you get back, we'll handle the breast cancer thing, but just don't die. You know what I mean? Just, I know you're not going to be careful, but try to be careful." Okay, so now it's back on. So I ordered leathers, and I remember this story is funny. She goes, "Well, if all your leathers fit, why do you have to order new leathers?" I go, "If you get married a second time, why do you need a new dress?" And she goes, "Okay, that makes sense." Nobody wears the dress from the last time.
That's right.
Yeah. So I got those new leathers hanging up over there, and it was just fun. It's like you're getting a new fire suit. Painting the helmet, getting the new leathers, getting the board all dialed in. It literally is such a psychological thing to dial you in, all that stuff.
So when you showed up, did anybody know who you were?
Oh, yeah. So, and no practice. So I go to practice on the board. Perry practices on his board. I practice on my board. And I tried something new on that board. And we went up to Pudding Stone, which is it's like a 55mm. It's nothing. He's in my truck. I take off. He's videotaping me. And the first turn is real big. And I go like this, and I go straight. And I put my feet down, because you stop with your feet. And I put my feet down, and I stop, and I get up, and I pick up the board, and I go back, and I put it in the truck. And he goes, What happened? It only went 74. And he goes, 74? I was following you. I go, 74 feet. It won't turn. It wouldn't turn. I leaned in, it just wouldn't turn. It went straight. So that was our joke forever. But I never got to practice it. So the first time was going to be at that hill. Yeah, tell me that wasn't nerve-wracking. So we get there. So I'm only literally, my feet are on the ground only 32 seconds. And he goes, "Hickey, your old shit ain't going to fly here." And I'm like, I look at Perry. I go, "I guess we should have practiced, man." I go, "These people are serious." And I'm thinking, "Man, I've been gone for 17 years. You're still pissed off at me." And so, yeah, they knew who I was. You know what I mean? And then the ironic part is Signal Hill, where I raced. I did the street luge that first time in 1977. It was exactly 40 years to when I'm racing this one. So it was really wild. So they had a documentary about Signal Hill, and at night, after we were racing in this park, they had one of those big blow-up screens, and they were showing Signal Hill, the documentary. And so I'm sitting at this table with half Americans, some Canadians, and some Europeans, and I'm like, "Oh, look at that, look at it." I go, "You do know that's me, right? That's me right there." They just couldn't comprehend that we're watching a documentary where it all started, and I'm sitting right here.
Right.
So it was pretty awesome to race that race and then come out, which I went 54.8 or 7 at that hill.
And you almost doubled it. That's just nuts.
That's what's so cool. So to see that 40 years early, to go 54 and then go 100, it was wild though, man. They're scary, and then there's that scary where your ego says you could wade in the death pool for about 7 seconds, but 8 seconds you're not going to make it. Do you know what I mean? Any racer that's been to that edge knows what that edge is. And our ego always, I think it's a control thing, I don't know, but our ego always is like, I think I could get in there for just a second.
I can go 7.5.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. It's like holding your breath.
Go 8, but I'll go 7.5.
It's like holding your breath. It's kind of like that, But man, that last run, I literally put my feet down when we came into the timer.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt you here. So you hadn't been doing it for 17 years. Was it terrifying, or was it back to the old days again?
So the first run, I came out and I'm like, you know what? Just get this over with. Just go for it. I know what I'm doing. And I rode the board down my flat street to make sure it could turn. And that was it. That's all I did. And I'm like, I'm good. So I took off from the start like, I'm just going to do 100 on the first run. Because, wow, how cool would that be? I probably got to about 85. Completely just lost my mind. I thought I was going to die. Like, everything was all out of control. I was all over the place, hitting the brakes. I was like, that didn't work out well. And so then I started going slow and slow, faster. It's 3 days of riding. Faster, faster, faster. So it wasn't until the last run when I just threw it all out there.
That could be 100 miles an hour. That was full tuck, dude, all the way.
You feel? Great.
My heart hasn't started yet.
But I did put my feet down, you can see in the video, in the middle of the timing strip. So most of the people that watch it said I was probably going about 104. Because you drag your feet in a timing strip in a gravity-powered vehicle,
Right.
you might as well throw the parachute out, you know? I didn't care. I got the triple digit.
First guy to do it.
And, 100 mile an hour club, there's only, I think there's only 4 now. So I have Olympic gold medal, 100 mile an hour club, and 200 mile an hour club. So yeah, I don't have a lot of moderation.
So when you were at Bonneville, you're talking about the 200 mile an hour hat, and you had done that with something kind of on your own. Well, before that, you were helping some guys that ran a fuel coupe out there, and I know you were helping them, and you went, hey, I got some ideas, and you started throwing some aerodynamic things at it, and it kind of went far beyond anything you ever dreamed.
Oh yeah.
So
and we could have went even farther.
okay, so
Yeah.
so let's talk about that then. Kind of explain what you did with what that was.
So when I saw these guys, I see this a lot in LSR. People talk about, coefficient drag and this and this and this and this and this is, which I find very funny. The biggest problem with LSR cars is they don't handle. They try to make them so slippery that they just don't handle. So if you're breaking tires loose and you're sideways and you're spinning out and you're doing all this weird stuff, you're not going fast. And I know the driver gets all the glory or the motor guy or whatever. I didn't care. You know what I mean? So basically I just wanted Hickey speed on there for what I'm doing. So one thing led to another. I cleaned up the front of the car, made a hood, made air go to the rear spoiler so we didn't need so much wing, because you're dragging the back of the car. Cleaned up the bottom of the car, did steering stabilizer to make it handle better. I just kept going and going and going, and I kept putting GoPros everywhere to see what it was doing.
Well, okay, so let's go back to the beginning. So you went out there and you were just helping them out, introduced yourself, or it just went, hey, and
they just invited me out to see it. And I saw a part of the car that I thought was very dangerous. And I try so hard to not be the guy that we all don't like.
I don't think he knows everything.
Comes in the pits and tells you everything to do your car. I don't want to be that guy ever. So I try to tiptoe and just through all the egos and all that and just go, just curious. If this was to spin out, don't you think this would happen? You know what I mean? And so I kind of tiptoed my way into that. And it worked. It happened to spin out and it worked. And so then I just spoon-fed my suggestions until I was trusted and just told, yeah, go ahead, do it, you know? And so it was awesome, man. I just started like just changing a lot of stuff. And we just started hauling ass. Like literally every time we went out there was 1 or 2 records every time the thing hit the ground. You know, we're just setting record. It was nuts.
So when you went to Bonneville, what was the record? What did you guys do?
The record we're trying to go after, I think, was something crazy, like either 213 or 223. And we went, the top mile an hour we went was 342. But the average for the mile was 335. I mean, almost 100 miles an hour more. Maybe it was 247. It was 80 to 100 miles an hour faster than the record. You know what I mean? And we blew a blower valve off. We didn't even get to where we wanted to go. So I was convinced at that point that we could go 400. I just knew it. We did that in 3 miles. You know what I mean? And with a 2-speed. So then we really went crazy. And I built diffuser, and the bottom of the car looked like an airplane wing. It was so smooth, and built a whole new rear wing and spent a lot of money, built a lot of parts. And then we went out there and it was really slushy. It was almost like a slush. It was bad. But I mean, Speed Demon went out there and went like 365. You know, I'm like, okay, well, George can climb in that thing and go 365. I think Donnie went out there and went in the 911 car. I think he went like 280. You know, I'm like, well, people are driving, but we just never went out there. And then all of a sudden it was over. They didn't want me on the team no more. It was just done. It's very disappointing.
Hurt the feelings.
And I put a lot of heart and soul and money, and it does hurt my feelings. You know what I mean?
So you got out of that one and decided, I'm going to do my own sort of deal.
Well, so while I was with them, I got contacted by a person I know and said they want to do this TV show. So when we went out there to Bonneville, when we went really fast, this is before the slush, they said, call us and film stuff of this car. So we have you in Bonneville, right? So my brother was filming me just wrenching and doing things, right? Because they want to do a TV. Is it a movie? It was something. They're doing a production called Past Forward. And they want to take a guy that's grown up since he was a kid in motorized sports and then turn it into electric. And so they said, you have experience at this stuff. So can you build us a car and drive it? An electric car. And I said, yeah, no problem. Let's do it. So we started growing interest in that stuff. And then, you know how you got to get with it. So it was probably, April. And I said, I got to enter. We're not going to race. We hadn't even started the race car yet. So I paid the pre-entry. Forget who I talked to on the phone, Jill or Joan or somebody, nicest people. Paid the pre-entry. I sent her the drawings of the car that we did here on SolidWorks because they wanted it for the program. And then we just started building. And then I just kept my receipts, and I did everything on SolidWorks before we even cut one piece of metal. So we had every single piece listed. We had the frame exactly to the 1,000th, how it had to be built. And so these guys said, look, we can build the frame. We have welders. Just give us the drawings and the design. I said, okay, but it has to be exact because I'm building the body and this and this and this and this, the front axle and all this stuff. So it has to all go together. We don't have time. So that's how we did it. And so I have a shop over here that has a CNC. They cut foam for boats and surfboards and stuff. So I just sectioned it off and they cut it all out for me and I glued it together. I took it up to Hanneman Fiberglass. He made a one-off carbon fiber, and we had the body from the minute the foam started cutting to the minute I took it to the frame in 23 days. Wow. Then we fit it and I brought it back. I cut the capsule out, built the windshield, took it back, And we mounted the belly pan on and finished the car. And in 90 days, it was in Bonneville and I was driving it. And so when it got there, there were some things that were done wrong. The right front wheel was all tweaked out like it hit a curb. Stuff you don't want to go 200 miles an hour in. Somehow the cockpit ended up for a lot smaller guy than me. I don't know what happened there, but the parachute handle went from here to here. And, you know, you're at the race. You just go. You just got to get things done.
Sure.
You don't sit around and go, why did this happen? Why did this happen? I don't care. We just got to go. So anyway, we got it through tech, and now we're gonna go, and we tow up there. And I'm in the car, and the speedometer was like the size of your phone numbers, right? And it's right over here. These guys don't know what this is. You know, they don't understand. They built an off-road car, you know, once, and so I said, I don't even know if I can see that. I'm in a cockpit like this, and there's this little box over here, so I have to run 125. So we take off, and I'm trying to see it. I'm squinting. My head's rattling like crazy because somehow the cage got too small from the last time I was in it. And I'm trying to see it. And what I saw was either 122 or 112. That's what I kept seeing. So I get through. I pull off. And we have a radio. And my brother's on the radio. And so when I pull off, they're coming down to get me. And I go, did we do it? And he goes, no, you're in trouble. I go, what? What happened? I pulled the chute at 2 1/4. He goes, you went way too fast. I go, what? What do you mean I went too fast? I don't even think I went 125. He goes, well, your average in the second mile was 192 and your exit was 211. I was like, oh wow. So we almost beat that.
I'm in trouble. I just beat the record
by 100. So, you know, I'm thinking I'm in big trouble. So I came back to the start, and you know, over there in the little course, there's a long line over there. But I like all the people over there because they're all the hobbyists,
right?
You know what I mean? And so I remember this, I don't know who she is, but I remember this one girl sitting in a coupe, and I was walking by in my fire suit like, geez, I hope I don't get disqualified.
I'm in so much trouble.
I'm in so much trouble. And I have my shield up, and I hear, hey, and I look at her, and she goes, and I'm like, really? And, you know, I forgot that they announce it, right? And so now every guy that I walk by is like, dude, that was sick. Oh my God, dude, that was crazy. I'm like, really? Oh my God. So then Lee Kennedy comes over.
211 on my first pass. That's
oh my God.
great.
So I have to wait. I'm sitting there waiting for 2 hours. I think they did it on purpose. And you sit here and you wait till we come talk to you. Okay. So I sit. And my brother's packing the chute again, you know, and so I'm sitting there for like maybe over 2 hours. All of a sudden, Lee Kennedy comes up and he's walking towards me and everybody's behind me. And he's like, got this piece of paper in his hand like this. I'm like, I said, I know. And I couldn't stop smiling, right?
Sure.
And I go, dude, I said, the speedometer, I thought it said like 122 or 112. And he goes, this is not good, man. He goes, you can't do this. I go, I didn't do it on purpose. And he goes, all right. He goes, I don't think you did. He goes, you've been around a long time. He was super cool. And he said, you know, I got to have those people behind you think that I'm mad at you.
Yes.
He goes, I'm going to hold on to this slip, and this is going to be your 200 slip. So you go back to elementary school.
Do 125.
And do all your stuff. And if you do them all perfect and you don't miss one, I'll use this for your 200 and you go to the big course. I said, all right. He goes, but you can't mess up one. So I didn't know, but they could program a bigger display in this display. I'm like, why did you? So then now we put it.
Now it's this big thing.
Oh, it's blocking my view. You know,
yeah.
I'm steering through the speedometer with these big numbers. And so then when I was done with that, I came back. He gave me my 200. And so I had to go over and get them all signed. And then I had to do a run over there. And then we lined up, and it got really windy. We pushed it up, and I'm like, hurry. And we're belting me in, getting real quick, because I knew they were going to shut it down. It was howling.
It gets really windy in the afternoon.
And it was blowing this way. And he's like, it's going to slow you down. I go, I got an electric motor. It's all torque, dude. I could push a shoebox this fast. And right as I got belted in, I go, no more. I'm like, damn it. So he said, you can leave the car if you want. So no, we went back to the pit. We changed the battery. We came out the next morning, and first pass broke the record. And then went into impound, and then came back the next morning. And I was right behind George, which was awesome. And so I thought, I'm just following George's tracks, because I still don't know what the hell I'm doing. You know what I mean? I know how to, I've raced a million things. I said, I'll just follow George's tracks. And so I did. I saw where he'd go here and go here. I just followed him, because he'd already had 120 passes already. You know
where the bad spots were.
I think he went like 480 or 475 on that run. And so I was like, I just followed him. And the weird part about that car, though, is the speed went up And then it just went down. So if I didn't enter the third mile at way over the record at like around 2:32, the record was 2:13. By the time I exited the third mile, it was going like 2:05 or 2:01. It was weird. And I think it was the controller heating up. I don't know enough about electricity, but it just died every time. So I knew the second day to go get on it harder earlier, and that worked. And so our average 2:18.7 or something like that. And so, yeah, I got in the 2 club. And then all of a sudden, shit hit the fan. All of a sudden, we were all done, and we're packing up, and I got in the motorhome, and it's going back to the airport, and people are calling me and go, I didn't know you were going to run again. I go, what do you mean I'm going to run again? Yeah, your car's on the starting line. And so we start calling people, and they go, yeah, they're on the start. They took your name off, they took Hickey speed off, and they put a different driver in it, and they're going for trying to beat your record. I'm like, it's my car. What? They haven't paid for that car. And so they did. They beat the record. So my 200 mile an hour club record lasted for about 2 hours. Still today, I don't even know anybody that can understand how that even happened. I don't even know how the officials let that happen. Nothing. But it still sucked. It broke my heart.
It does suck.
Yeah. But I got a red hat.
So any more racing in your future, or
well,
what are you doing right now? As far as
I got the germ scan I mentioned, so when that's done, I told Esther I want to rebuild the car and go back out and see if I can up the record, just to put it back in my name and finish the story, and then just park it or give it to somebody or sell it or something.
Right.
But I'd like to fit in it like I'm supposed to fit in it, and build a new frame and all that stuff. But I got to get that done first. I still have my off-road car that I race all the time.
So anything else you want to talk about in here?
No, I think the only thing is that I wish that the LSR scene would embrace a lot of things that would make it bigger, like the RC. The RC industry is giant. I mean, millions, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And I wanted to build during Speed Week an RC track for Speed Week. So it's a 10th scale of the actual course. You know what I mean? And get the big giant RC cars companies to come out.
Wow.
Wouldn't that be awesome? So they're building, 10th scale streamliners and 10th scale roadsters, and they can run their own event. But that brings so much interest to it. You know what I mean? And then do production electric car class. Run them on the short course. Because, everybody has an electric car now.
Roger, thank you for sitting down with me.
Oh my God, anytime.
And talking about it. This is great.
Yeah. There's only 3 people in the world that don't dislike me, and you're one of them. So of course I'll talk all day.
I want to talk to the other ones. Then.
Well, the wife, and then the people that I signed the check.
Sir, thank you very much.
Oh, no problem. I can't wait to watch it, and many more.
And many more.
Yeah.